Somewhere in the ocean right now, a creature is swimming that was alive before trees existed on Earth, before flowers, before dinosaurs took their first breath. Sharks have been here for over 400 million years, and tonight we're going to discover why that matters. If this sounds like the kind of journey you enjoy, hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss more amazing stories tomorrow. And drop a comment telling me where you're watching from and what time it is there. I love hearing from you. Now, let's get comfortable and explore these ancient swimmers together. Sharks appeared in Earth's oceans around 450 million years ago. To put that in perspective, trees didn't show up until about 350 million years ago. Sharks were already old by the time forests covered the land. They swam through waters that would be completely alien to us, under skies with different constellations, on a planet that looked nothing like the Earth we know today. They've survived 5 mass extinctions, 5 separate events that wiped out most life on the planet. The asteroid that killed the dinosaurs 66 million years ago, sharks made it through. The Great Dying 252 million years ago that erased 96% of all marine species, sharks survived. Every catastrophe that reset life on Earth, sharks kept swimming. Their basic body design has remained remarkably similar across hundreds of millions of years. Evolution tried different experiments with them, sure. Some grew to massive sizes. Others developed weird head shapes or unusual fins. But the core blueprint stayed the same. Streamlined body, powerful tail, multiple rows of teeth, cartilage skeleton instead of bone. This tells us something important. When evolution finds a design that works this well, it doesn't mess with it. Sharks hit on a winning formula so early that nature saw no reason to change it. They're not primitive or outdated. They're perfected, refined across aeons into exactly what they need to be. Think about that for a moment. While entire groups of animals came and went, while continents shifted, and oceans rose and fell, while the climate swung from ice ages to tropical heat and back again, sharks just kept being sharks. They watched trilobites disappear. They saw the first fish crawl onto land. They were there when those land creatures eventually returned to the sea as whales and dolphins. Every ocean you've ever swum in, sharks were there first. Every wave that's ever touched a beach rolled over sharks swimming beneath. They're woven into the fabric of ocean life so deeply that removing them would unravel everything. And here's what makes this even more interesting. Scientists keep discovering new things about sharks that completely change what we thought we knew. These aren't simple, mindless eating machines. They're complex, ancient, and in many ways, still mysterious. We're just beginning to understand creatures that have been perfecting their existence since before our ancestors were even a possibility. And that's where our story really begins. These ancient creatures move through water in near perfect silence. No splashing, no thrashing, just smooth, effortless motion that barely disturbs the ocean around them. Most fish make noise when they swim. Their fins create vibrations. Their movements push water in ways that echo through the sea. But sharks, they're ghosts. Their entire body is designed for stealth. Start with their skin. Run your hand along a shark from head to tail, and it feels smooth. But go the opposite direction, and it's rough, like sandpaper. That's because shark skin is covered in tiny, tooth-like scales called denticles. Each one is shaped like a miniature wing, with grooves that channel water flow. These denticles do something remarkable. They reduce turbulence. Water flows over a shark's body in smooth layers instead of chaotic swirls. Less turbulence means less noise. It also means less drag, so sharks use less energy to move. Engineers actually study shark skin to design quieter submarines and faster swimsuits. Then there's the way they move. A shark's tail pushes side to side, creating forward motion with minimal water displacement. The movement is rhythmic and controlled. There's no wasted energy, no unnecessary motion, just efficient, silent propulsion. Their fins work like airplane wings, providing lift and stability without creating sound. They can adjust the angle of each fin independently, making tiny corrections to their path without sudden movements. It's precision engineering that took millions of years to perfect. This silence serves a purpose. Prey can't hear them coming. In the ocean, sound travels far and fast. A noisy predator announces itself from hundreds of feet away. But a shark, it appears as if from nowhere. One moment, the water seems empty. The next, there's a shark gliding past. But it's not just about hunting. This quiet movement is simply how sharks exist in their world. They don't rush unless they need to. Most of their time is spent cruising at relaxed speeds, conserving energy, moving through their territory with calm efficiency. Watch footage of sharks swimming in open water, and you'll notice something peaceful about it. There's a meditative quality to their movement. No panic, no hurry, just steady, continuous motion that looks almost effortless. Some species, like the great white, can burst into incredible speed when needed. But even then, they're quieter than you'd expect. That explosive power comes from muscles that have been fine-tuned over eons, capable of incredible force without the noise that usually comes with it. In deeper waters where visibility is limited, this silent movement becomes even more important. Sharks rely on other senses down there. Their ability to move without announcing their presence gives them a huge advantage in the dark. Think about how much noise we make moving through water, splashing, kicking, creating waves and bubbles. Now, imagine moving through that same water without making a sound. That's what sharks do naturally, every moment of their lives. It's one of the reasons they seem so mysterious. They appear and disappear like shadows. They're there, and then they're not. Silent observers in a noisy ocean. And this quiet efficiency is just the beginning of how perfectly adapted these creatures are to their world. That silent gliding never stops for some sharks. They can't stop. If they do, they'll die. Most fish can hover in place or rest on the ocean floor. They pump water over their gills while staying still. But certain shark species lack that ability. They need to keep moving forward to push water through their gills. No movement means no oxygen. No oxygen means no life. Species like great whites, makos, and whale sharks are obligate ram ventilators. That's the scientific term for must swim to breathe. They're born swimming and never stop until they die. Even while they rest, they're moving. Imagine that existence for a moment. From the second you're born, you're in motion. You cruise through the ocean day and night, year after year, decade after decade. There's no lying down, no complete stillness, just endless, gentle forward movement. But here's the interesting part. This isn't exhausting for them. It's just how they are. Sharks have evolved to make this constant swimming as effortless as possible. Their bodies are naturally buoyant. That massive, oil-filled liver we'll talk about later keeps them from sinking. They don't fight gravity the way we would. They simply glide through water at a comfortable cruising speed that requires minimal energy. Think of it like this. Walking slowly on flat ground doesn't tire you out because your body is designed for it. For these sharks, swimming at their cruising speed is the same thing. It's their natural state, the baseline. Stopping would actually be stranger and more difficult than continuing. They do rest though, just not the way we do. Some sharks have been observed entering a state that looks like sleep while still swimming. Parts of their brain shut down, while other parts stay active enough to keep them moving. They swim in slow, straight lines through open water, or follow ocean currents that do some of the work for them. Others find all underwater currents that push water over their gills while they rest on the bottom. They've figured out how to position themselves so they're technically still, but water is still flowing. It's like standing in front of a fan. You're not moving, but air is still moving past you. The species that must swim cover incredible distances without trying. A great white might travel 50 miles in a day just doing its normal routine. Over a year, that adds up to thousands of miles. They're constantly touring their territory, always moving, always covering ground. There's something almost meditative about this lifestyle. No destination, no rush, just continuous motion through blue space. They follow the water, the food, the temperature, the season. They exist in flow, and this perpetual movement shapes everything about them. Their muscles are built for endurance, not sprint speed. Their metabolism is tuned for efficiency. Their entire body is a machine designed to keep going with minimal fuel and maximum effect. It's a completely different way of experiencing life. We stop. We rest in stillness. We need periods of no movement to recover. But for these sharks, movement is rest. The rhythm of swimming is their meditation. The ocean current is their cradle. They've been doing this for hundreds of millions of years. While continents shifted and climates changed, sharks kept swimming. Through calm seas and violent storms, through warm waters and cold, always moving, always forward. While they're swimming through that endless ocean, sharks are detecting things we can't even imagine sensing. They can feel electricity. Every living thing produces tiny electrical fields. Your heartbeat creates one. So does every muscle movement, every nerve signal, every twitch. These fields are incredibly weak. We're talking about voltages so small that the best human-made sensors struggle to detect them. Sharks sense them easily. They have special organs called ampullae of Lorenzini. These are small pores on their snouts, filled with a jelly-like substance that conducts electricity. The pores connect to sensory cells underneath the skin. Together, they work like living voltage detectors. A shark can detect electrical fields as weak as 5 billionths of a volt per centimeter. That's absurdly sensitive. It means a shark can sense the electrical field produced by a fish's heartbeat from several feet away, even if that fish is buried under sand and completely invisible. This ability changes everything about how sharks experience the ocean. While we rely on sight and sound, sharks are reading an invisible map of electrical signals all around them. Every creature nearby is broadcasting its location, whether it wants to or not. Watch a hammerhead hunting for stingrays. The ray buries itself in the sand, perfectly camouflaged and motionless. To our eyes, there's nothing there, but the hammerhead swims slowly over the area, sweeping its wide head back and forth like a metal detector. It's scanning for electrical signals. Suddenly, it stops, pins down an exact spot, and digs furiously into the sand. It pulls out a stingray that was hidden so well, you'd have walked right past it. The hammerhead never saw the ray. It felt its heartbeat through the sand. This sense works in complete darkness, in murky water, in conditions where vision is useless. A shark hunting at night in deep water doesn't need to see anything. It follows the electrical breadcrumbs left by every living thing around it. The ampullae of Lorenzini are scattered across a shark's head, with the highest concentration around the snout and mouth. This placement makes sense. As a shark gets close to prey, those final inches when it's about to bite, the electrical sense takes over and guides it to the exact location. But sharks don't just use this ability for hunting. They can detect the Earth's magnetic field, which helps them navigate across vast ocean distances. They can sense underwater electrical currents. Some scientists think they might even use it to detect weather patterns by sensing changes in the electrical properties of water. It's a completely alien way of experiencing the world. Imagine walking into a room and instantly knowing where every person is, what their heart rate is, whether they're nervous or calm, all without seeing or hearing anything. That's closer to how sharks experience their environment. This electrical sense is so refined that sharks can be thrown off by artificial electrical fields. Underwater cables, metal objects, even the battery in a diving camera can confuse them. It's like shining a bright light in someone's eyes. The signal overwhelms their senses. Evolution gave sharks this incredible ability hundreds of millions of years ago, and it's remained virtually unchanged because it works so perfectly. They're swimming through an ocean filled with invisible signals that paint a picture we can't see. Those electrical sensors guide sharks toward their prey, but once they get there, they need tools that can handle the job. And sharks have solved this problem in the most efficient way possible. They grow new teeth constantly. A single shark can produce over 30,000 teeth in its lifetime. Some species go through a new set every 2 weeks. That's not a typo. Every 14 days, brand new teeth. Here's how it works. Behind each functional tooth sits multiple rows of replacement teeth, folded back and waiting. When a front tooth breaks or falls out, the tooth behind it moves forward on a kind of conveyor belt system. Within 24 hours, there's a new tooth in place. No gap, no waiting, just immediate replacement. This happens because shark teeth aren't rooted in their jaw like ours. They're attached to the gums by soft tissue. This makes them easier to lose, but also easier to replace. It's a trade-off that works perfectly for their lifestyle. Different sharks have different teeth for different jobs. Great whites have triangular, serrated teeth designed to slice through flesh and bone. They're like living steak knives, with tiny sawtooth edges that grip and tear. Tiger sharks have curved, heavily serrated teeth that can crunch through sea turtle shells and bones. They're omnivores, with teeth built to handle almost anything. Mako sharks have long, thin, pointed teeth without serrations. These teeth are designed to grab and hold slippery, fast-moving fish. They pierce rather than slice. Bull sharks have upper teeth for cutting and lower teeth for holding. Different tools for different parts of the job, all working together. And then there are the filter feeders. Whale sharks and basking sharks have hundreds of tiny teeth that don't do much of anything. They filter feed, so their teeth are basically vestigial, leftover equipment from ancestors who actually used them. The teeth themselves are made of the same material as human teeth, but sharks replace them so often that they never have to worry about cavities or decay. A damaged tooth? No problem. A new one is already on its way. This system has been working for sharks since before they even looked like modern sharks. Fossil records show ancient shark teeth with the same replacement pattern. Evolution found a winning strategy and stuck with it. Shark teeth are also incredibly common fossils. Because each shark loses thousands of teeth, and those teeth are hard and preserve well, you can find them on beaches all over the world. Some fossil sites have millions of shark teeth in a single location. Layers upon layers of discarded teeth from ancient sharks that swam overhead. People collect them, study them, use them to understand shark evolution and ancient ocean conditions. Each tooth tells a story about the shark it came from, the time period it lived in, the things it ate. For the shark itself, though, teeth are just tools. Disposable, replaceable tools that get the job done and then get swapped out for fresh ones. There's no attachment to them, no concern about losing them. They're designed to be temporary. It's one more example of how sharks have optimized every aspect of their existence. They don't maintain their teeth, they just grow new ones. Simple, efficient, proven across millions of years. All those teeth come in wildly different packages. Sharks range in size from creatures you could hold in your palm to animals longer than a city bus. The dwarf lantern shark holds the record for smallest. Fully grown adults max out at about 8 inches long. That's smaller than a ruler. You could fit one in a large coffee mug. These tiny sharks live in deep water off the coast of South America, glowing softly in the darkness with bioluminescence. At the other extreme sits the whale shark. These gentle giants can grow over 40 feet long and weigh more than 20 tons. That's longer than most school buses and heavier than several elephants combined. A single whale shark could fit hundreds of dwarf lantern sharks inside its mouth. But here's what makes this size range so remarkable. They're all still sharks. They all share the same basic body plan, the same cartilage skeleton, the same multiple rows of teeth, the same gill slits. Evolution took one successful template and scaled it to fit every possible niche. The smallest sharks hunt tiny fish and crustaceans in the deep sea. The largest filter feed on plankton near the surface. And everything in between has found its own way to survive. Great whites average 15 to 16 feet. That's intimidating to us, but they're actually middle-sized compared to the full shark spectrum. Hammerheads range from 3 feet to 20 feet depending on the species. Tiger sharks reach 13 to 14 feet. Bull sharks hit 11 feet. Then you have the oddballs. Cookie cutter sharks are only 20 inches long, but hunt whales and dolphins by taking circular bites out of them. Megamouth sharks can reach 18 feet, but weren't even discovered until 1976 because they live so deep and are so rare. The size difference creates completely different lifestyles. Small sharks in deep water deal with intense pressure, near freezing temperatures, and total darkness. Large sharks near the surface navigate warm, bright waters with different predators and different prey. Small sharks mature quickly and produce smaller numbers of offspring. Large sharks take decades to reach maturity and invest heavily in fewer babies. Small sharks might live 10 to 20 years. Large sharks can live 50 years or more. Some scientists think we haven't found the size limits yet. There could be undiscovered shark species, even smaller than the dwarf lantern shark, lurking in unexplored deep-sea trenches. There might be whale sharks, larger than any we've recorded, swimming in parts of the ocean we rarely visit. The extinct megalodon is proof that sharks can get even bigger than what we see today. These prehistoric monsters reached estimated lengths of 60 feet or more, 3 times the size of a great white. A shark so large it could swallow a person whole without even noticing. But Megalodon went extinct. The sharks that survived were the ones that adapted to changing oceans, changing prey availability, changing competition. Size matters, but flexibility matters more. Today's sharks occupy every part of the ocean. Tiny ones in the deep trenches, giants filtering at the surface, medium ones hunting along coastlines and reefs, each size perfectly fitted to its environment and role. The diversity is staggering when you step back and look at it. These are all sharks, but they live completely different lives, in completely different worlds, all within the same ocean. The biggest sharks in that incredible size range don't hunt at all. They filter feed. And there's something almost paradoxical about watching a creature the size of a bus eating things smaller than a grain of rice. Whale sharks and basking sharks are the ocean's gentle giants. Despite having mouths wide enough to swallow a person, they survive entirely on plankton, krill, and small fish. They're like living vacuum cleaners, cruising through the water with their mouths open wide. A whale shark's mouth can be nearly 5 feet across. When it feeds, it opens that massive mouth and takes in thousands of gallons of water. Inside are gill rakers, comb-like structures that filter out the tiny organisms while the water flows out through the gills. Everything edible gets trapped and swallowed. Basking sharks do the same thing, but look even stranger doing it. Their mouths are so large relative to their body that they look almost comical. They swim slowly through plankton blooms with their mouths gaping open, filtering up to 2,000 tons of water per hour. Think about the math for a second. These massive animals need to eat huge amounts of food to survive. But their food is microscopic, so they compensate with volume. They filter absolutely enormous amounts of water to collect enough calories to power their giant bodies. It's incredibly efficient in plankton-rich waters. A single pass through a dense bloom can provide a meal worth the effort. But it also means these sharks must constantly search for areas where plankton concentrates. They follow ocean currents and temperature changes that signal good feeding grounds. Divers who swim with whale sharks describe the experience as surreal. You're next to an animal that could theoretically hurt you easily, but it shows zero interest in you. You're too big to filter, too complicated to bother with. The shark just glides past, focused entirely on the clouds of tiny organisms in the water. These gentle giants have tiny teeth that serve no real purpose. Hundreds of them, but they're vestigial, leftover from ancestors who used teeth differently. The whale shark's teeth are so small and useless that scientists aren't even sure why they're still there. Evolution just hasn't bothered removing them. Both species are solitary, but sometimes gather in groups when feeding conditions are good. Divers have reported seeing dozens of whale sharks in one area, all filtering peacefully alongside each other. No aggression, no competition, just calm, methodical feeding. Their size protects them from most predators. Very few things in the ocean can threaten a full-grown whale shark or basking shark. Killer whales sometimes attack them, and large great whites have been known to bite them, but generally they move through the ocean unbothered. They're also incredibly slow-moving. Basking sharks travel at about 2 miles per hour when feeding. Whale sharks cruise at around 3 miles per hour. There's no rush. They're not chasing anything. They're just moving through the water, letting the food come to them. This strategy has kept them alive for millions of years. While other sharks evolved sharp teeth and hunting techniques, these giants went the opposite direction. They got bigger, slower, and less aggressive. And it worked perfectly. Watching them feed is like watching meditation in motion. Slow, peaceful, purposeful. No stress, no drama, just endless filtering. That peaceful, slow lifestyle connects to something else remarkable about many sharks. They grow incredibly slowly and live extraordinarily long lives. Most sharks take years to reach maturity. Great whites don't reproduce until they're around 15 years old. Some deepwater sharks don't mature until they hit 30 or 40. They're spending decades just growing up, taking their time reaching adulthood in a way that seems almost leisurely. But that's nothing compared to the Greenland shark. These cold-water giants might be the longest living vertebrates on Earth. Scientists have estimated some individuals could be over 400 years old. 4 centuries. That's older than the United States. Older than Shakespeare's plays. Older than telescopes. A Greenland shark alive today might have been swimming when the Pilgrims landed at Plymouth Rock. It would have been already ancient when the Declaration of Independence was signed. It witnessed the entire Industrial Revolution from beneath Arctic ice. These sharks live in frigid waters where everything moves slower. Cold temperatures slow their metabolism, their growth rate, their entire life process. They grow less than ½ an inch per year. At that pace, reaching 20 feet takes centuries. Scientists figured out their age by examining proteins in their eye lenses. These proteins form before birth and never get replaced, so they act like time capsules. By testing the carbon in these proteins, researchers could determine when the shark was born. Some of the results were stunning. One female was estimated to be at least 272 years old, possibly as old as 5 to 12. They don't reach sexual maturity until around 150 years old. Think about that. A Greenland shark has to survive for over a century before it can even reproduce. That's an incredible investment of time and a huge vulnerability if anything disrupts their population. But Greenland sharks aren't alone in their longevity. Many deep-sea sharks live for decades or centuries. Spiny dogfish can live over 100 years. Some species of gulper sharks might reach 70 or 80. Even relatively common sharks like sandbar sharks can live 30 to 40 years. This slow growth and long life creates a completely different relationship with time. These animals aren't rushing through life cycles. They're experiencing the ocean across generations of shorter-lived species. They watch fish populations rise and fall. They see migrations come and go in cycles we barely notice. It also makes them vulnerable. When you take decades to reach maturity and might only have a few offspring in your lifetime, losing individuals to fishing or habitat loss hits hard. Populations can't bounce back quickly. There's no fast recovery for species that live by slow time. Long-lived sharks also accumulate knowledge. They learn their territories over decades. They remember feeding grounds, migration routes, seasonal patterns. That information might even get passed down through observation and behavior, creating traditions that last generations. A 200-year-old Greenland shark has survived climate shifts, ice ages coming and going, entire ecosystem changes. It carries that experience in its behavior patterns, its migration routes, its survival strategies. These are not creatures living fast and dying young. They're the opposite. Slow growth, long life, patient existence. They measure their lives in centuries, while we measure ours in decades. Time moves differently when you're built to last. Some of those long-lived sharks spend their entire existence in places we can barely imagine. The deep sea, where sunlight never reaches and pressure would crush a human instantly. Down there, past the reach of daylight, certain shark species have evolved their own light. They glow. Bioluminescence in sharks works through special organs called photophores. These are cells that produce light through chemical reactions. The sharks control when and how bright they glow, using it for different purposes depending on the species and situation. The lantern shark family gets its name from this ability. They have glowing patterns on their bellies and sides that look like scattered points of light in the darkness. Some species use this glow for camouflage in a clever way called counter-illumination. Here's how it works. When you're swimming in the deep sea and look up, you can see the faint light filtering down from above. Any creature silhouetted against that light becomes visible to predators below. But if you glow on your underside with the same intensity as the light above, you become invisible. You blend in perfectly. Your shadow disappears. Other deep-sea sharks use bioluminescence to communicate. They flash patterns at each other, possibly to find mates or establish territory. In the complete darkness of the deep ocean, these glowing signals are one of the few ways to send messages across distance. Some species glow to attract prey. Small fish and crustaceans investigate the light, curious about what's creating it. They swim closer, and suddenly they're within striking range of a predator they never saw coming. The cookie-cutter shark has one of the strangest uses for bioluminescence. Its entire underside glows, except for a dark collar around its neck. From below, that dark collar looks like a small fish silhouetted against the light. Larger predators come up to investigate what they think is an easy meal, and the cookie-cutter shark takes a bite out of them instead. Deep-sea sharks live in permanent darkness where pressure increases with every foot of depth. At 3,000 feet down, the pressure is about 90 times what we experience at sea level. These sharks have bodies adapted to handle it. Their cartilage skeletons are more flexible than bone would be. Their organs are designed to function under crushing force. The temperature down there hovers just above freezing year-round. Food is scarce. Everything moves slowly to conserve energy. It's a completely alien environment where the normal rules don't apply. Many deep-sea sharks are small because there's not enough food to support large bodies. They hunt smaller prey, often things like squid and lanternfish that also live in the darkness. Some are scavengers, feeding on dead animals that sink from the surface. We've only explored a tiny fraction of the deep ocean. Every expedition finds new species, including sharks we've never seen before. There are likely dozens or hundreds of deep-sea shark species we haven't discovered yet, living in trenches and underwater mountains we've never visited. These sharks represent one of the last true frontiers on Earth. They're living in spaces more alien to us than many planets we've studied, and they're glowing softly in that darkness, lighting up a world we're only beginning to understand. Whether they're glowing in the deep sea or cruising near the surface, all sharks share one feature that makes their lifestyle possible: a massive liver filled with oil. This isn't like our liver. A shark's liver can make up 25% or more of its total body weight. In a 2,000-pound great white, that's 500 pounds of liver. It's enormous, taking up a huge portion of the shark's body cavity. The liver serves as a flotation device. It's filled with an oil called squalene that's lighter than water. This oil-filled organ acts like a built-in life jacket, helping the shark maintain neutral buoyancy without effort. Most fish have swim bladders, gas-filled sacs that they inflate or deflate to control depth. Sharks don't have those. They use their oil-filled livers instead, which works better for their lifestyle. Here's why. Swim bladders work great if you stay at consistent depths. But if you dive or rise quickly, the gas inside expands or compresses, and you need time to adjust. Sharks don't have that limitation. Oil doesn't compress or expand with pressure changes. A shark can dive from the surface to 1,000 feet down without any adjustment period. This gives sharks incredible vertical mobility. They can chase prey up or down through the water column without worrying about buoyancy problems. They can dive deep to escape danger and return to the surface moments later. The liver also stores energy. All that oil is basically a massive fuel tank. When food is scarce, sharks can metabolize the oil in their liver to survive. It's why some sharks can go weeks or even months between meals. Different shark species have different liver sizes depending on their lifestyle. Deep sea sharks that need extra buoyancy have proportionally larger livers. Sharks that live on the bottom and don't need as much lift have smaller ones. It's all precisely tuned to their environment. The oil composition varies too. Some sharks have livers that produce more squalene, making them more buoyant, Others produce different oils with different densities. Evolution fine-tuned each species' liver to match exactly what they need. This system also explains why sharks must keep swimming. They're not perfectly neutrally buoyant like fish with swim bladders. They're slightly negatively buoyant, meaning they'll slowly sink if they stop moving. The forward motion of swimming creates lift over their pectoral fins, like airplane wings, keeping them from sinking. It's another example of sharks choosing a different evolutionary path than other fish and making it work brilliantly. No gas bladder means no depth limitations. No adjustment time means better hunting ability. The trade-off is having to keep moving, but as we've seen, that's built into their design anyway. Humans have found uses for shark liver oil over the centuries. Squalene has been used in cosmetics, supplements, and even vaccines. This has unfortunately made sharks targets for fishing specifically for their livers, putting some species at risk. But for the shark, that liver is simply what makes their lifestyle possible. It's the reason they can glide effortlessly through water at any depth. It's their energy reserve, their flotation system, and their ticket to vertical freedom in the ocean. With all that efficient swimming and perfect buoyancy, you'd think sharks would be lone hunters moving through the ocean in isolation. And for a long time, that's exactly what we thought. But we were wrong. Many sharks are surprisingly social. They form groups, communicate, and show complex behaviors we're only starting to understand. Hammerhead sharks gather in schools of hundreds during the day. They swim together in coordinated patterns, maintaining formation like an underwater ballet. At night, they split up to hunt individually, then reunite at dawn. Scientists still aren't entirely sure why they do this, but protection from larger predators seems to be part of it. Great whites have been observed playing. They'll breach repeatedly, even when not hunting, seemingly for no reason other than the activity itself. They investigate objects, push things around with their snouts, and engage with their environment in ways that look playful. Some shark species have social hierarchies. Larger females often dominate feeding areas. Smaller sharks give them space and wait their turn. There's an understood social order that gets maintained without constant fighting. Sharks also communicate through body language. They arch their backs, drop their pectoral fins, open their mouths, and swim in specific patterns to signal aggression or submission. Other sharks read these signals and respond appropriately. It's a complex system of non-verbal communication happening constantly. White-tip reef sharks rest together in groups on the ocean floor during the day. They pile up in caves and under ledges, sometimes with dozens of sharks in one spot. There's no practical reason for this. They could rest anywhere, but they choose to rest together. Sand tiger sharks form aggregations at specific locations year after year. They return to the same spots, possibly meeting up with the same individuals repeatedly. These aren't random gatherings. They're deliberate, chosen associations. Female lemon sharks have been observed forming long-term social bonds. They prefer spending time with specific other sharks and avoid others. They have friends, essentially. Preferred companions they seek out and travel with. This social complexity extends to learning. Young sharks learn hunting techniques by watching older sharks. they improve their success rates through observation and practice. Some populations have developed specialized hunting strategies that get passed down through generations, creating what looks like shark culture. Sharks also show surprisingly good memory. In captivity, they recognize individual humans and respond differently to different people. They remember feeding schedules, learn routines, and adapt their behavior based on experience. One study showed sharks could remember training for at least a year. All of this paints a very different picture from the mindless eating machines of popular imagination. These are intelligent animals with social lives, personalities, and learned behaviors. They're not swimming around in a simple stimulus-response loop. They're making decisions, remembering experiences, maintaining relationships, and navigating complex social dynamics. The ocean they move through isn't just a hunting ground. It's a social landscape filled with individuals they know and recognize. We're still discovering new aspects of shark social behavior. Every study reveals more complexity, more sophistication, more evidence that we've underestimated these animals for decades. They're not the simple creatures we thought they were. That complexity and intelligence relies on something we never gave sharks credit for: memory, and not just short-term recall. We're talking about memories that last months or years. Scientists tested this by training Port Jackson sharks to perform specific tasks. The sharks learned quickly, which wasn't surprising, but then researchers waited. They left the sharks alone for an entire year without any training or reinforcement. When they brought those same sharks back and gave them the test again, the sharks remembered. They performed the tasks correctly without any retraining. A year is a long time to retain information with no practice. It suggests sharks have memory systems far more sophisticated than we assumed. They're not operating on instinct alone. They're storing experiences and recalling them when relevant. This has huge implications for how they navigate the ocean. A shark that can remember a productive hunting ground from months ago can return to it when conditions are right. They can recall migration routes traveled only once a year. They can recognize specific landmarks on the ocean floor and use them for navigation. Lemon sharks have been shown to remember maze solutions for extended periods. They run the maze, learn the correct path, then weeks later, they still know which way to turn. They're building mental maps of their environment and updating them with new information constantly. Some sharks can even learn by watching other sharks. If one shark figures out a new hunting technique or discovers a food source, others can observe and copy the behavior. This is social learning, something we usually associate with mammals and birds, not fish. There's also evidence that sharks can count, at least in basic ways. In experiments, they've shown the ability to distinguish between different quantities. They know the difference between 2 fish and 5 fish. They can make decisions based on which option gives them more food. Their brains are larger and more complex than we once thought. The forebrain, which handles higher thinking in vertebrates, is well developed in many shark species. They have distinct brain regions dedicated to different senses and functions, not unlike our own brain structure. This intelligence shows up in hunting strategies. Great whites hunt seals using sophisticated tactics. They approach from below and behind, staying in blind spots. They adjust their attack angle based on the seal's position. They learn which hunting spots are most productive and when to be there. Tiger sharks have been observed testing unfamiliar objects carefully before deciding whether to eat them. They bump things with their nose, circle around them, take exploratory bites. They're gathering information and making decisions, not just attacking everything blindly. Sharks in aquariums learn to recognize feeding times, anticipate daily routines, and even distinguish between different caretakers. Some respond more eagerly to certain people than others, suggesting they remember individual humans and associate them with specific outcomes. This learning ability makes them adaptable. When environments change or prey, availability shifts. Sharks can adjust their behavior. They're not locked into rigid patterns. They experiment, remember what works, and modify their approach based on results. The more we study shark cognition, the more impressed we become. These aren't mindless automatons. They're thinking, remembering, learning creatures navigating a complex world with sophisticated mental tools. All that intelligence and memory gets amplified by yet another sense most people don't know sharks have. They can feel water moving around them, not just flow and currents. They detect the tiniest vibrations and pressure changes through a system called the lateral line. The lateral line runs along both sides of a shark's body from head to tail. It's a canal filled with fluid and lined with sensory cells called neuromasts. These cells have tiny hairs that bend when water pressure changes, sending signals to the shark's brain. This system detects movement in the water from surprisingly far away. A struggling fish creates vibrations that travel outward. A shark can sense those vibrations from over 800 feet away in some cases. That's nearly 3 football fields of detection range for water movement alone. It works like sonar, but passive. The shark doesn't send out signals. It simply feels disturbances in the water created by other animals. Every creature moving through water creates a pressure wave. The lateral line reads those waves like braille. This helps sharks hunt in conditions where vision fails. Murky water, nighttime, or deep ocean darkness don't matter when you can feel prey swimming nearby. The lateral line tells the shark where something is, how big it is, how fast it's moving, and what direction it's going. Different types of movements create different signatures. A healthy fish swimming normally produces one pattern. An injured fish struggling produces another. Sharks can distinguish between them and preferentially target the injured one because it's easier prey. The system is so sensitive that sharks can detect their own reflection bouncing off nearby surfaces. They use this to navigate around obstacles in complete darkness. They feel the way water moves around rocks, coral, or other structures and adjust their path accordingly. Some sharks use the lateral line to find prey buried in sand. They swim slowly over the seafloor, sensing the tiny water movements created by buried fish breathing or shifting position. Then, they use their other senses to pinpoint the exact location and dig it out. The lateral line also helps sharks swim in schools and maintain formation. They can sense the water movements of sharks around them and adjust their position to stay coordinated. It's how hundreds of hammerheads swim together without colliding. In fast currents or surge zones near shore, the lateral line tells sharks about water flow patterns. They can feel eddies, backflows, and pressure differentials that indicate dangers or opportunities. They navigate complex underwater terrain using this information. Scientists have tested sharks' lateral line sensitivity by blocking it temporarily and watching what happens. Sharks with disabled lateral lines struggle to hunt successfully. They miss prey they would normally catch easily. It proves how critical this sense is to their survival. The lateral line works together with their other senses, creating a complete picture of their surroundings. Vision, smell, electroreception, and water pressure detection all feed information to the brain simultaneously. The shark processes all of it and responds accordingly. It's another layer of sensory sophistication we don't have. We move through air and barely notice it. Sharks move through water and read it like a language, feeling every pressure change, every movement, every subtle shift in flow. The ocean speaks to them in ways we can't perceive. All those advanced senses help sharks find food. And when it comes to what they eat, sharks have diversified into nearly every possible niche. Each species has found its own solution to the problem of survival. At one extreme, you have the filter feeders eating plankton. At the other, you have apex predators taking down seals and dolphins. And between those extremes sits an incredible variety of specialized diets. Cookie-cutter sharks have one of the strangest feeding strategies in the ocean. They're small, only about 20 inches long, but they attack animals hundreds of times their size. Whales, dolphins, large fish, even submarines. They swim up, latch on with suction cup lips, bite down with razor-sharp teeth, and spin their body to carve out a circular plug of flesh. The bite is clean and precise, perfect circles of missing tissue. The victim survives, and the cookie cutter swims away with its meal. It's like being bitten by a living hole punch. Many whales and dolphins carry these circular scars as permanent reminders. Hammerheads specialize in stingrays. That wide head isn't just for show, it works like a metal detector, scanning the sandy bottom for buried rays. When they find one, they pin it down with their head and take bites while avoiding the venomous tail. Some hammerheads have been found with dozens of stingray barbs embedded in their mouths and throats. They just accept the stings as part of the job. Horn sharks eat hard-shelled prey like sea urchins, crabs, and mollusks. They have strong jaws and flat teeth designed for crushing. They pick up an urchin covered in spines, crunch through the shell, and spit out the broken pieces. Their diet would be impossible for most other sharks. Thresher sharks have tails as long as their entire body. They use these tails like whips to stun schools of fish. They swim into a school, swing their tail in a violent arc, and knock multiple fish unconscious with one hit. Then they circle back and eat the stunned fish at their leisure. Tiger sharks eat almost anything. They're the ocean's garbage disposals. Fish, turtles, birds, dolphins, other sharks, garbage thrown from boats. They've been found with license plates, tires, and pieces of armor in their stomachs. Their teeth are designed to cut through hard materials, and they use that ability freely. Bull sharks can survive in fresh water, so they hunt in rivers and estuaries where other sharks can't go. They've been found thousands of miles up the Amazon and Mississippi rivers. This gives them access to prey that never encounters other shark species. Wobbegong sharks are ambush predators. They lie on the ocean floor, looking like rocks or coral, their camouflage nearly perfect. When a fish swims too close, they explode upward and swallow it whole. They can eat prey almost as large as themselves. Greenland sharks in the Arctic eat seals, but they also scavenge. They've been found feeding on drowned reindeer and moose that fell through ice. They'll eat anything they can find in their cold, dark world. This dietary flexibility is part of why sharks have been so successful. They don't compete with each other because they're all eating different things. Each species carved out its own niche and perfected its technique. Those specialized diets work in different water temperatures, which brings up another remarkable shark adaptation. Some species can keep parts of their body warmer than the surrounding water. Most fish are cold-blooded. Their body temperature matches whatever water they're swimming in. Cold water means cold body, which means slower movement, slower digestion, slower everything. This limits where they can hunt effectively. But certain shark species evolved a way around this. They're called regionally endothermic, which means they can heat specific parts of their body. Not their whole body like mammals do, just the parts that matter most for hunting. Great whites, marcos, salmon sharks, and a few others have this ability. They use a system called countercurrent heat exchange. Here's how it works. Blood vessels carrying warm blood from working muscles run right next to vessels carrying cold blood from the gills. Heat transfers from the warm blood to the cold blood before it reaches the core. This keeps the heat inside instead of losing it to the water. The result is remarkable. A great white's muscles can be up to 25 degrees Fahrenheit warmer than the ocean around it. A marco's body temperature might be 20 degrees above water temperature. That warmth makes their muscles work faster and more powerfully. Warm muscles contract harder and quicker. This gives these sharks explosive speed when they need it. A mako can accelerate faster than almost any other fish in the ocean. Great whites can launch themselves completely out of the water when attacking seals. That power comes from warm, efficient muscles. Warm bodies also mean faster digestion. Food gets processed quicker. Energy becomes available sooner. These sharks can hunt more actively because they're fueling their bodies more efficiently than cold-bodied species. This adaptation lets them hunt in cold water where other predators struggle. Great whites patrol areas near Antarctica where water temperature barely rises above freezing. Salmon sharks thrive in the frigid North Pacific. They can be active and effective in conditions that would slow down most other sharks. But there's a cost. Maintaining warm muscles requires more energy. These sharks need to eat more frequently than cold-bodied species. They burn through calories faster. It's an expensive adaptation that only pays off if you're hunting large, energy-rich prey. That's why you see this trait in sharks that eat seals, tuna, and other substantial meals. The energy investment makes sense. When each successful hunt provides a major calorie boost. It wouldn't work for sharks eating small fish or filtering plankton. The system isn't perfect. These sharks can overheat if they're too active in warm water. They have to manage their activity levels and sometimes move to cooler water to avoid overheating. It's a balance they have to maintain constantly. Some parts of their body stay cold no matter what. Their brain and eyes remain at water temperature. Only the swimming muscles and digestive organs get the heating benefit. evolution was selective about where to invest energy. This partial warm-bloodedness represents another way sharks optimized their design. They didn't go fully warm-blooded like mammals, which would cost too much energy in an aquatic environment. They just warmed the parts that gave them hunting advantage. Efficient, targeted, effective. All these hunting abilities, these perfectly tuned predators with their warm muscles and specialized diets, they're not just surviving in the ocean, they're holding it together. Sharks are apex predators in most marine ecosystems. That position comes with responsibilities. They're not just taking from the ocean, they're maintaining it. Here's how it works. Sharks typically hunt the sick, weak, and old. Not because they're being merciful to healthy animals, but because sick and weak prey are easier to catch. A struggling fish moves differently. An injured seal swims slower. Sharks target those animals first because it's the most efficient strategy. This behavior acts as quality control for prey populations. By removing sick individuals, sharks prevent diseases from spreading through entire populations. One sick fish in a school could infect hundreds of others. A shark removes that problem before it multiplies. They also prevent prey populations from growing too large. Without predators, fish and other marine animals would reproduce unchecked until they depleted their own food sources. Then the population would crash from starvation. Sharks keep numbers at sustainable levels. But it's more subtle than just eating things. Sharks shape behavior throughout the ecosystem. Prey species change their feeding patterns to avoid areas where sharks hunt. This spreads grazing pressure across wider areas instead of concentrating it in one spot. Coral reefs and seagrass beds stay healthier because no single area gets overgrazed. Scientists have documented what happens when sharks disappear from an ecosystem. The effects cascade downward through the entire food web. In one study area where sharks were heavily fished, the species they usually eat multiplied rapidly. Those species then ate so many of their own prey that the next level down collapsed. Then the species that depended on that level collapsed. The whole system unraveled. This happened off the US East Coast. As large shark populations declined from fishing, ray populations exploded. Those rays ate so many scallops that a century-old scallop fishery completely collapsed. Removing sharks triggered an economic and ecological disaster. Sharks also create opportunity for other species. When a large shark makes a kill and feeds, smaller fish and scavengers get the leftovers. One shark feeding event can provide meals for dozens of other animals. They're redistributing energy through the ecosystem. Their movements distribute nutrients across large distances. They eat in one area, travel to another, and excrete nutrients there. This nutrient transfer connects different parts of the ocean in ways we're only beginning to understand. Even shark bodies contribute after death. When a large shark dies and sinks, it creates a food source for deep-sea communities. Scavengers feed on the carcass for weeks or months. It's an important nutrient delivery system to the deep ocean where food is scarce. The presence of sharks indicates ecosystem health. They're at the top of the food chain, so they only thrive in waters where the entire system below them is functioning. Seeing sharks means seeing a healthy ocean. Removing them creates a domino effect. First, their immediate prey increases. Then, that prey overconsumes its food. Then, species at lower levels decline. The impacts ripple outward in ways that aren't immediately obvious, but are devastating over time. Sharks aren't optional parts of ocean ecosystems. They're structural supports holding everything else in place. Those ecosystem responsibilities play out across vast distances. Sharks don't stay in one place. Many species migrate thousands of miles every year, following routes that have been used for generations. Great whites travel between continents. Sharks tagged off California have been tracked swimming to Hawaii and back, a round trip of nearly 5,000 miles. They make this journey annually, traveling to specific areas at specific times with remarkable precision. One female great white, nicknamed Nicole, swam from South Africa to Australia and back. That's 12,000 miles round trip. She completed it in 9 months. The return journey took her to nearly the exact spot where she started, demonstrating navigation accuracy that scientists still don't fully understand. Blue sharks are even more impressive travelers. They've been tracked crossing entire ocean basins. One individual swam from New York to Brazil, then across the Atlantic to Portugal, then back across to the Caribbean. That's circumnavigating a significant portion of the Atlantic Ocean. Whale sharks gather at specific locations during certain times of year. Off the coast of Mexico, hundreds converge annually when fish spawn, creating massive feeding opportunities. They travel from all over the ocean to up there at exactly the right time. How they coordinate this timing across such distances remains mysterious. Salmon sharks migrate between Alaska and California, following salmon runs north in summer and returning south in winter. They time their movements to intercept migrating salmon at different points along the coast, maximizing feeding opportunities throughout the year. These migrations aren't random wandering. They're purposeful journeys to specific locations for specific reasons. Breeding grounds, feeding areas, pupping locations where females give birth. The sharks know where they're going and when they need to be there. Scientists believe sharks use multiple navigation methods. Earth's magnetic field provides directional information. Ocean currents create recognizable patterns. Water temperature changes mark different regions. Even chemical signatures in the water might serve as guideposts. Some sharks may navigate using the sun and stars, though proving this is difficult. Others might remember underwater landmarks on the ocean floor. The navigation system likely combines multiple cues into a comprehensive map. Young sharks sometimes follow older sharks on their first migration, learning the route through observation. Once they've made the journey, they remember it and can repeat it independently. This suggests some migration routes are taught rather than purely instinctual. The distance covered is staggering when you calculate lifetime totals. A great white that lives 30 years and makes a 5,000-mile migration annually will swim 150,000 miles in its lifetime. That's more than 6 times around the Earth at the equator. They do this while hunting, avoiding predators, and maintaining their position in the ecosystem. The migration is happening alongside all their other survival activities. It's just part of their normal existence. Climate change is affecting these migrations. As water temperatures shift, the timing of prey availability changes. Sharks are arriving at traditional feeding grounds at the wrong time, missing the peak food abundance they've relied on for generations. They're adapting, but it's happening faster than evolution usually works. These ancient migration routes represent knowledge passed down across countless generations. Sharks swimming today are following paths their ancestors swam millions of years ago, connecting points across oceans with invisible threads of memory and instinct. These powerful predators, traveling thousands of miles, hunting with incredible efficiency, equipped with razor-sharp teeth and advanced sensory systems. You'd think they'd be constantly attacking humans, but they're not even close. You're more likely to be killed by a falling coconut than a shark. You're more likely to be struck by lightning. You have a better chance of dying from a bee sting or a dog attack. The numbers tell a story that completely contradicts the fear. Worldwide, sharks kill an average of 5 to 10 people per year. In the United States, that number drops to about 1 per year. Compare that to the 38,000 people who die in car accidents annually in the US alone, or the 400 people who drown in bathtubs. Sharks barely register as a statistical threat. Most shark encounters don't result in injury. Divers swim with sharks regularly without incident. Surfers share waters with sharks every day. The vast majority of these interactions are completely peaceful. The shark investigates, realizes you're not food, and leaves. When attacks do happen, they're usually cases of mistaken identity. A surfer on a board, viewed from below, looks similar to a seal silhouette. A swimmer kicking at the surface creates vibrations that might seem like a struggling fish. The shark makes an exploratory bite, realizes its mistake, and retreats. Great whites, the species most people fear, typically release humans after that first bite. They're not trying to eat us. They're investigating something unfamiliar in their environment. Once they taste human, which apparently isn't what they prefer, they let go. Unfortunately, even one exploratory bite from a large shark can cause serious injury. Bull sharks are responsible for many attacks in shallow water and rivers. But this has more to do with proximity than aggression. They hunt in areas where people swim, creating more opportunities for accidental encounters. They're not specifically targeting humans. We're just in their space. Tiger sharks occasionally attack humans. But again, this relates to their generalist diet. They investigate everything. Most of the time, that investigation doesn't result in a bite. When it does, it's because the shark thought the person might be food worth trying. Compare shark behavior to actual dangerous animals. Hippos kill around 500 people per year. Mosquitoes kill hundreds of thousands through disease transmission. Even cows kill more people annually than sharks do. Yet, we don't have movies about killer hippos or fear swimming in mosquito-filled areas the same way we fear shark-filled waters. The fear is cultural, not statistical. Movies, media, and sensationalized news coverage have created a perception that doesn't match reality. Every shark attack makes headlines globally. The millions of safe human-shark interactions never get reported. Sharks have survived for hundreds of millions of years without developing humans as a food source. We're not part of their diet. We're not their target. We're occasional accidents in their world. In fact, the relationship is far more dangerous for sharks than for us. We kill an estimated 100 million sharks per year through fishing, bycatch, and finning. For every human killed by a shark, we kill roughly 10 million sharks. The threat flows overwhelmingly in one direction, and it's not toward us. Most shark species actively avoid humans. They detect us through their senses and change course to maintain distance. We're large, unfamiliar, and not worth the risk of investigation. That imbalance, 100 million sharks killed versus 5 to 10 humans, reveals something most people don't realize. Despite being apex predators, sharks are surprisingly vulnerable. They reproduce slowly. Most shark species take years to reach sexual maturity. Some don't reproduce until they're 15 or 20 years old. A few deepwater species wait until they're 30 or older. That's a long time to survive before you can contribute to the next generation. When they do reproduce, they don't have many offspring. Great whites typically have between 2 and 10 pups per litter. They might only reproduce every 2 or 3 years. Compare that to fish species that lay millions of eggs annually. Sharks simply can't replace their numbers quickly. Pregnancy in sharks is long. Some species carry their young for over a year. Spiny dogfish hold the record at 18 to 24 months of pregnancy. That's 2 years of gestation for a species that already reproduces infrequently. The investment in each offspring is enormous. Many sharks give birth to live young rather than laying eggs. The pups develop inside the mother, sometimes even eating their siblings in the womb. Only the strongest survive to be born. This internal development is safe, but limits how many offspring a female can produce. This life strategy works perfectly in stable environments where adult mortality is low. Sharks evolved over millions of years with few natural predators. They could afford to reproduce slowly because once they reached adulthood, they typically survived for decades. But this strategy fails catastrophically under fishing pressure. When humans remove large numbers of adult sharks, populations can't recover quickly. There aren't enough breeding adults producing enough offspring to replace the losses. Some shark populations have declined by over 90% in the past 50 years. Species that were once common are now rare. Hammerheads, oceanic whitetips, and many others have been pushed toward extinction in many areas. Shark finning remains a major problem. Fishermen catch sharks, cut off their fins for soup, and throw the still-living shark back into the ocean where it sinks and drowns or bleeds to death. The fins are valuable, but the rest of the shark isn't worth the storage space on fishing boats. It's wasteful and cruel. Even sharks caught accidentally as bycatch in fisheries targeting other species suffer. Tuna boats catch sharks. Shrimp trawlers catch sharks. Nets set for one species trap others indiscriminately. Many sharks die before they can be released. Habitat loss affects sharks too. Coastal development destroys nursery areas where young sharks grow up protected from larger predators. Pollution affects their health and reproduction. Climate change shifts water temperatures and prey availability. Sharks survived 5 mass extinctions. They made it through climate changes, asteroid impacts, and ocean chemistry shifts that killed most other species. But they're struggling against human activity in ways they never struggled against natural disasters. The irony is stark. These ancient predators that have perfected survival over hundreds of millions of years are being pushed to the edge by a species that's been around for less than 1 million years. Their slow reproduction, their life strategy that worked for eons, has become a vulnerability in the modern world. They need decades to recover from population declines. We can reduce their numbers in years. The math doesn't work in their favor. But here's what makes sharks truly remarkable. Despite all the challenges, despite the pressure from human activity, they're still here, still swimming, still doing what they've done for longer than almost any other complex life form on Earth. When you see a shark, you're looking at a design that has barely changed in hundreds of millions of years. The basic body plan, the cartilage skeleton, the multiple rows of teeth, the sensory systems, all of it existed before trees covered the land. Evolution isn't sentimental. It doesn't preserve things out of tradition. If a design doesn't work, it gets replaced. The fact that sharks have remained fundamentally similar for so long tells us something profound. They got it right early. They're living fossils, but that term doesn't mean primitive or outdated. It means perfected, refined, so well adapted to their role that major changes weren't necessary. Small adjustments happened. New species evolved. But the core shark template proved itself across geological time. They witnessed the rise and fall of the dinosaurs. They were already ancient when the first dinosaurs appeared, and they kept swimming after the asteroid wiped them out. They watched mammals evolve and return to the ocean as whales. They saw continents split and oceans form. Through all of that, through climate changes that froze the poles and thawed them again, through ocean chemistry shifts that killed coral reefs, through asteroid impacts and volcanic eruptions, sharks adapted and survived. Not by changing everything, but by maintaining what worked and making small refinements. That resilience is still in them. Given protection and time, shark populations can recover. Marine protected areas show that when fishing pressure stops, sharks return. Their numbers rebuild. The ecosystem begins healing around them. Some countries have banned shark finning. Others have created shark sanctuaries where hunting is prohibited. These efforts work. Populations in protected waters are healthier and more stable than populations in unprotected areas. We're learning to appreciate them for what they really are. Not mindless killers, but sophisticated animals with complex behaviors and crucial ecosystem roles. Not threats to humanity, but indicators of ocean health. Not expendable resources, but irreplaceable pieces of marine biodiversity. The ocean that sharks inhabit is the same ocean that regulates our climate, produces much of our oxygen, and feeds billions of people. Protecting sharks means protecting that ocean. Their success is tied to ours in ways we're still discovering. When you think about sharks tonight, as you settle into sleep, think about their journey. 400 million years of survival. 5 mass extinctions survived. Countless environmental changes adapted to. An unbroken line stretching back further than we can fully comprehend. They're still here, still swimming, still being sharks. That persistence deserves our respect and our protection. If you enjoyed learning about these ancient swimmers tonight, hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss tomorrow's journey into another fascinating corner of science. Drop a comment and tell me what surprised you most about sharks, or what you'd like to explore next. Let the thought of these timeless creatures carry you into rest tonight. They've been swimming through Earth's oceans since before our distant ancestors were even a possibility. And if we make the right choices, they'll still be swimming long after we're gone. Sleep well.